Hey guys, welcome back to the Roundup. On today's episode, we're diving into the world of barbecue, but not just any barbecue, Snow's Barbecue in Lexington, Texas, where people come and pilgrim from all over the world. And all at the heart of this is Tootsie, the famous pitmaster who's in her 80s, has been working there since 2003, alongside Kerry, the owner. Snow's Barbecue has reached legendary status after being named the best barbecue in Texas by Texas Monthly in 2008, and then again in 2017. Tootsie's hands-on approach has inducted her into the Barbecue Hall of Fame, multiple James Beard Awards, and has become the standard for authentic Texas barbecue. You've seen Tootsie all over the place. She has been on Netflix. She's done videos with Yeti. She's been on Chef's Table. She is the real deal living legend and the queen of Texas barbecue. We're happy to have her on location today to talk about her story and listen to all of her interesting thoughts and opinions about Texas barbecue today. This is Tootsie's first ever appearance on a podcast, and so we are grateful to have her on, and we're grateful to have you here. Tune in to the Roundup. We'll see you there. How long have you been here in Lexington? So we're in Giddings right now.
Mm-hmm.
And this place, you've got a lot of history here as we've been walking around looking at the artifacts here at this museum and enjoying everything that's been shown with the history. It seems like it's brought up a lot of memories. You know a lot of these stories. So what does this community mean to you?
Well, it being the county seat, and as a kid at home, we would come to Giddings shopping. Lexington had a few stores, but there were more stores here in Giddings that we would come to. For instance, their taxes would be paid down here. We did some banking down here. The grocery stores, in a way, had better sales than what Lexington did. And it was just that we would come to Giddings and do business, shopping and business. So back all those years, I just began learning people and listening to stories and reading the papers and, just kind of keeping it in my mind. And, but I went to school in Lexington. I graduated from Lexington in 1953. And in 1956, we married, and I moved to Giddings then. So I've been in Giddings now for 60-plus years.
So you were born and raised in Lexington.
Mm-hmm.
That was your home place.
That was my home. My home.
That's your home. And your family, did they have property there? Did
Yes.
they raise livestock, or what was that like growing up?
Both of my grandparents bought land in Lexington and farmed, did some. They had some cattle. There wasn't as many cattle then as it is now, because now all the farmland has been turned into pasture and
Back then,
meadows.
It was more wooded and everything. Did you grow up on land doing livestock work and things like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we raised corn, cotton, peanuts, milo. I guess that's about it.
What are some of those memories of that time in your life as a kid?
Well, in the late summer when the cotton was coming in, it was my duty to watch when the people picking cotton, the gentleman in charge, Daddy was on the mail route at that time, and the gentleman in charge of the pickers, he would wave to me at the house, and I would have to go see, and if they had the total amount of poundage for a bale of cotton, they would help me put the trailer or the wagon to a tractor, farm-all tractor, 12 tractor, and I would take the bale of cotton to town 3 miles away and help gin it and take it back home then, the empty trailer. So, and that's driving that tractor is how I learned to drive a car. I started driving the tractor probably at 9 or 10 years old. And, to turn a kid loose now at that age on a tractor on a highway, but it wasn't highways. It was all dirt roads, gravel roads, and wasn't that many cars. And it just, one of the things that I raised up, learning to work. I learned to plow with the tractor, and there you had to be very precise, because if you got too far to one side or the other, you plowed out the plants, and that was a no-no. But it was just a very, I enjoyed my farm life. I really do. I can't think of anything that is more sweet to my memory is to drive through the country and smell fresh plowed ground. It is such a wonderful, sweet smell to me, and brings back so many memories when I would be on that tractor smelling that fresh soil being turned. And it's to some people it's a foolish idea to smell the dirt, but it's just a memory.
Yeah. You feel connected to the land?
I feel connected to the land.
Yeah. It's hard not to when you put your time and effort and energy into it, I'm sure.
Yeah. And, of course, I enjoyed working the cattle whenever we'd get ready to sell calves, getting all the cows and calves in the pen and picking out the ones to sell and were large enough to sell. And I can remember back we'd sell them at an auction sale. Man, if we just get $100 for that animal, it's so pretty. I hope it'll bring $100. Now the cattle market is so high, you get $1,200, $1,300, $1,400. And it's
hard to believe.
It's hard to believe. So you really wonder, that's why our meat prices are so high. Then I remember one time Mother went to town. Daddy had back problems and was in bed, and she went in the store, meat market, and asked for a 10-cent soup bone. Now you couldn't even buy a half-inch bone for 10 cents.
Right.
But, it's just memories that I have of the farm and growing up on the farm.
Your mother, was she, did she raise all those, how many kids did you
There were 3 of us in the family. Mm-hmm.
Boys, girls?
I'm the oldest of the 3. I have a sister, and the brother is the youngest. And mother was a home mom. She did help with the farm when it was cotton chopping time, or corn chopping, or even when we would harvest peanuts, she would help gather the crops. In the early spring, she had her garden, and as the vegetables came in, we canned for the winter time. At that time, we had no freezers, deep freezes, and so it was every day there was some vegetable to can. I can remember as starting to school, we did not have electricity, so I had to do my homework before it got dark, because we just had the kerosene lantern and very little light from that. We would listen to some radio programs, Andy Williams, not Andy Williams, Amos and Andy, and different game shows that they would have. And, well, we usually went to bed pretty early. 9 o'clock was probably bedtime because it was dark. And yet, the next morning we got up early because there was work to be done. The mules had to be fed before the chickens came off of the roost. When it was daylight then, the mules were harnessed up to the pastures, to the fields we went. So it's been a big change. I can remember the electricity coming down. They would attach the wire to a horse with it had a harness on, and the wire was attached to each side of the harness. And this horse was trained to jump the fence when he got there, and that's the way they pull the wire from one place to the other. The holes were all dug by hand. The men had, I don't know what they would call those pricks on the insides of their shoe that they would climb the poles with, and had to stick them into the wood. If not, they would fall. They had a safety belt once they were up there and had locked their feet into the wood. They'd put this safety belt around them that they wouldn't fall backwards while they were hand drilling a hole through the pole to put a bolt in to fasten the wire to. And it was a very hard work, but as a kid, it was very interesting to watch how they all worked together, teamwork. We need that nowadays, more teamwork.
Did it feel hard when you were a kid, or it just felt like life? It was just, that's what it was.
It was just life. I mean, you didn't know any better.
Yeah.
We didn't know any better that there was such a thing as someday there would be machines to lift the men up to the top of the pole and have power to drill that hole. Now you look back and you said how hard they worked for very little money.
Mm-hmm.
No insurance. That wasn't heard of. And it
does it feel, when you think back on it, does it feel simpler? Does it feel like a more simple life?
Now it does.
Now, yeah. From looking back today to that time, you're
very much so.
Simpler.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Things feel more complicated now. We've kind of made it more complicated, it seems. It's more convenient, but it's more complicated, right?
The complication part comes in nowadays with all the technology that they can punch in numbers and know how far it is from this plot to that plot and how many posts it'll take, and
right,
that type stuff. Where then they had to walk it and measure it, and I mean, they had a hard life. That's all I can say.
That's true. When you were growing up, you mentioned your mom had a garden, and everybody gardened back then,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do you remember your mother and you picking the garden? And did she cooked? I'm sure probably every meal. What was some things that she would cook? Do you have any memories in the kitchen as a young girl?
We always had a very good meal. We had a meat and probably 3 vegetables. We made our own butter from the cream that we milked from the cows. We made our own bread. We picked berries, plums, made our own jelly. The only thing we would buy would be flour, sugar. As far as grease or cooking oil or anything like that, we butchered hogs in the fall, winter, rendered the lard out, and that's what we used all summer then till next fall, winter, when we butchered hog again. Mm-hmm. So, and at the same time with the lard, after the bacons and hams were cured, they were sliced. We would slice them and put it down in big crocks and put the lard on it. Instead of canning it, we put it in these big crocks. Well, as we ate the bacon, we got more, used the lard for cooking and baking again. So it made a circle. We used it year-round and had to save every bit that we had. You didn't think of throwing something away because somebody might want to eat it, could eat it the next meal. where nowadays you see so much food wasted.
Yes.
And all I can say, I wasn't raised that way.
Yes.
You ate everything that was on your
If
plate.
it was on the plate, it was getting eaten, or you weren't leaving. Right.
Yeah.
Do you have any memories of a meal that she made? Any specific meal that your mother made that brings back memories?
Not really. I mean, I remember one time they invited someone from church to come out and have a meal with them, and she fried fish and made French fries. And man, I thought I was in hog heaven having French fries. We had just a head of lettuce that we broke off, cut off, and sliced our own tomatoes and had our salad that way. It wasn't that we had all the sides to go with it.
Right.
But it was a very enjoyable meal. I remember that.
You know, that we think back on that time, or, you know, as you are telling me about it, and I agree, it sounds simpler. And now things are supposed to be more convenient, and they are, and they're more complicated for that reason, unfortunately, it seems like. So they're kind of a double standard. But if we're talking about food, the thing that is the same as it was back then, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, is barbecue. Is it the same thing, or is it changed as well?
Well, that's a 50-50. As far as the barbecue, we never cooked barbecue at home. We always came to Giddings and bought it. But the style of barbecue or the style of pits that I work with is more or less the old-timey barbecue pits. Our church barbecue fundraisers, our fire department, they all they all use the pits where it's direct heat underneath. They put the coals underneath. And I just said that's the old-timey barbecue. That's the first barbecue. I think our Indians, when they were here, they would dig holes in the ground and build fires and then put the buffalo meat and the deer meat on there and cook it. And so that's the reason I said your direct heat is really your original barbecue heat cooking style, which I prefer. I mean, I enjoy it.
So then what would you consider the style of the barbecue that you do at Snow's?
Well, it is the direct heat.
It's the direct heat.
Where the pits, the round pits or square pits that have a firebox on the end, that is your indirect heat because the heat travels through the meat, over the meat, and the meat's not over the fire. Where the direct heat, your meat drippings fall on those coals, then that puts up a smoke again, and then that smoke again goes into your meat, seasons your meat. Where with your direct heat, the heat goes by and it drips, but it doesn't put the smoke up to re-season the meat.
Right.
So, and nowadays, a lot of the places use a sauce or what do I want to call it? Not a frosting, but they put a mop on it. I use a mop too, but theirs puts a glaze on, I guess is what I'm looking for. And a lot of it's going to that.
What do you think about that?
It's okay. It'll give it a different flavor because you've got that other flavor on the outside where your meat hasn't had time to absorb that. So you've got a different flavor of meats. With the direct heat, as I said, it's the smoke that brings it back up and gives a seasoning to it.
Right. Before we get into Snows, which I do want to talk about, I want to talk a little bit more about how you ended up there. And so when you graduated from Lexington, you said you moved to Giddings.
When I married,
When you married, and then where did life go after that?
I was home from 56 to 61. We have 3 children, a girl and 2 boys. And the baby wasn't quite a year old yet when Mr. Doyle, White, my husband, was working for City Meat Market here in Giddings. And they were short-handed one day. Several of them didn't show up, so Mr. Herschel asked White if I would come in and help Orange Holloway, a black gentleman that was working the pit, if I would come in and help him. And he said, well, she's got the baby. She can get somebody to take care of it. I'm sure she would. So I came in, he called, and I said, well, I don't know that much about it, but I will tell you I will do my best. I'll try to do my best to help you. Well, I worked that day, I worked the next day, I worked the next day, and I ended up being there a week, and I ended up being there a month, and well, come back, come back, come back. So I worked for City Meat Market here in Giddings 10 years. During that time, I worked the pit. I learned how to sell meat, the raw meat across the counter, as our counters were open, not open, but displayed with a glass case. So the customer would say, I want the steak in the back and the one here in the front. They could pick out the steak and we would take it out of the counter and wrap it for them. As time moved on, White went out and was helping or was doing the butchering. And on the heavier days when he had a lot to butcher, he had asked Herschel if I could go out and help him butcher. So before the 10 years was out, I had also worked the kill floor, butchering animals. Mr. Doyle bought a meat market in Lexington, and me being from Lexington, he asked if I would go up there and operate it for him. And I did. I was glad to go back to Lexington to see my old home folks. And I enjoyed it. And I told Light, let's buy the market, which we bought it then from Mr. Doyle. And we were up there 20 years. And White had a stroke, and it was pretty bad. So we had to sell. But after we sold, the people that bought the meat market asked if I would continue cooking on Saturdays because they turned the meat market into a restaurant and they wanted barbecue as their special for Saturday. Well, that was fine with me because I enjoyed doing it. And Kerry had come by right after I'd given my word to these people that I'd cook for them and wanted to open up a barbecue place. And I said, I've given them my word.
What year was this? When was this, give or take?
2002.
Okay.
And, well, really in 96 when we sold. And I said, I'm going to stay here because I've given them my word. Well, as time rolled on, the meat market restaurant had changed hands several times. And it had gotten to the point in 2002 that things just weren't going good. I wasn't happy there anymore. So Kerry came by one morning on the way to Alcoa at Rockdale where he worked. And I told him, if you're still interested in opening a barbecue place, we need to sit down and talk. So Thanksgiving week, I was off from school. He was off from Alcoa. So we sat down and talked, and I told him everything that I had, what pits I liked at place, Lexington. And he said, do you think we could be ready by March? And I said, I'm ready tomorrow if you can get the pits ready. So he took measurements of the pits and built them as they were, because I was accustomed to that heat distance from the fire, the distance from the meat to the top. And fortunately, we were able to open up March the 1st of 2003. I went in at 2 a.m. and would start my fire because I needed coals to put under the pits for direct heat. Put the meat on, and Kerry would get there earlier in the morning. Some of the other ladies that worked inside would come in 8 o'clock or so. Some of the meat would be ready at 8, and it was mostly at lunch that we were the busiest, because everybody from Lexington came in at lunch to get Saturday lunch or Sunday's lunch. And so I was out there all by myself cooking the same meats we do today: brisket, pork, ribs, chicken, sausage. And Texas Monthly was coming by in 2008 and picking up meat. To me, Texas Monthly was just the name of a magazine. I didn't realize what a big group they were. Well, Mother's Day Saturday, they came back and told us that they had selected our brisket as the best brisket in the state, which, well, I was quite honored. I thought, that's going a long ways. And they told Kerry, said, business will pick up.
Mm-hmm.
So he added an additional 6 foot to the pit that we were using as a brisket pit. Well, the first Saturday we had a crowd there, unbelievable. And they had asked Kerry when they announced that we were number one, and said, what time do you open up? And he said, 8 o'clock. And I said, Kerry, there's no way I can have the brisket ready by then. He said, well, I'll have to start coming in Friday nights and putting it on. So we had to make a lot of changes. And as time has moved on, we did, right after being announced, we borrowed pits because we just didn't have enough for the briskets. And at the present time, we have a large brisket pit, which has 3 shelves in it. Our rib pit has 2 shelves in it. Pork is still on the direct heat, and chicken is still on the direct heat. So I have finally, I had to cut back. The heat was getting to me, and I guess my age was cutting me back too. So Kerry began coming in at 2 a.m. and putting the meat on. Clay comes in on Friday nights, Friday afternoons, 8 o'clock or so, and starts his pits for his brisket. So he cooks the brisket all night. Then Kerry goes in around 2, puts the pork and the chickens on. And I come in around 6:30, and finish it off because Kerry's got other things to do and meeting with the people. So it has been a big change, and at the same time, as I speak of teamwork, it's working out very good.
You guys have a great team there.
We've got a good team working there.
It sounds like it's a well-oiled machine. I spent 2 Saturdays ago with you guys in the morning and got to watch you and everybody work, and it was so fun to be a fly on the wall, watch you guys, and to see not just the level of expertise in what you're doing, but the dedication, and you're also having fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's you guys are enjoying it. The people,
we're enjoying it.
The people are enjoying it. Y'all are enjoying it. You're having fun with it, and that's neat.
Yeah,
that's really neat. If you were to, so in 2008, when Texas Monthly named Snow's the number 1 brisket in Texas, and you were the pitmaster at that time, I want to know that young girl who went in to City Meat Market and had somebody watch her baby that day and just went to go lend a hand. What would that young woman have said to you in 2008, knowing that you won, #1 restaurant in Texas?
I often think of that. How many people, women, yeah, as you say, would do that, get someone to babysit for them, and they go do a job they knew nothing about, and it turns out to be highly publicized, very well known around the world. And I can remember a first Saturday or two after we were named #1, a gentleman walked up and he said, "Oh, so you're the chef?" And I looked at him and I said, "No, sir, I'm just the pitmaster." I didn't want, I couldn't imagine this chef with the whole white hat under that black greasy pit. So I said, "No, I'm just the pitmaster."
Yes, that is funny. But at that time in City Meat Market, like as you're saying, this was not. What year was that you went in around to go help that day?
66.
66. So it was not normal for a woman to go drop her kid off and go help at the meat market,
do a barbecuing,
barbecuing, and then within the year standing at the slaughterhouse, butchering cows. This was a not a normal thing. And so was it just you knew that you needed to help, and that's just the type of person you are, which I can tell, by the way? Or did you say, you know what, I think I might like this barbecue thing? You were just doing what was needed.
Yeah, it was my job, and I enjoyed it. And I really looked forward to the next day. Going on down and becoming butcher and working there. I don't know. I enjoy work. My kids used to call me a workaholic, and I guess that's what it is. It's the enthusiasm of work that has turned my life to be busy all the time. It's just an enjoyment for me.
Because some would say now that, especially within the barbecue world, that you're famous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's fair to say, no doubt. And when you went in to work that day, and when you sat down with Kerry and you guys decided to open up a restaurant or a barbecue restaurant, you weren't seeking accolades. You didn't think that, I'm sure, that you would be the #1 restaurant in Texas, a barbecue restaurant in Texas. You just wanted to do something different.
I wanted to continue barbecuing.
Yeah, because you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. And that's what bothered me, because I had gotten to the point, the owner couldn't understand why you didn't have enough beef, or you didn't have enough pork, or didn't have enough chicken. I mean, you can't outguess the public. Anybody that goes anywhere to eat in a restaurant, barbecue place, fast food, they don't eat the same thing every day. They change their menu, and that's the way it is with barbecue. They don't buy the same meat every week. They buy differently. They want something different. And that's one reason it makes kind of hard to determine how much meat you're going to need. Which meat will I need the most of? So it's best just to kind of level off, run X number of pounds each week. If we run out every week, then increase a little bit or decrease, But it's just kind of feeling it as you go, because there's no set pattern as to how much you really need.
The barbecue pit is only as good as the master behind it.
Well, that's true.
Do you think that's true?
I think that's true.
What has the barbecue pit taught you about life?
Be prepared at any time for anything that might happen. I mean, by that, I mean, you don't realize maybe how hot your fire is, but that grease gets to dripping, you may have a fire. So you really have to pay attention as to how much fire you got. You've got to be on your toes. Be prepared for anything. You may just put some fire under, coals under. You get distracted, something may happen. I mean, you've got to keep your mind back on where you were and what you were doing and what you're going to do next. It can burn, but it can't burn if you're paying attention.
Just like life.
Uh-huh.
That's good.
Uh-huh.
That's really good. Can you describe how you felt when you were named number one the first time?
I guess I would have to say I was very nervous inside, very jittery. I mean, I thought, what will this lead to? What does this mean? What's going to happen? And it, I was nervous. And it all worked out. The next couple of Saturdays after being named one, I mean, I was tense. And
did the line show up the next time?
Saturday?
The next Saturday, the magazine released, and all of a sudden it went from probably local folks, maybe a few passerbys, because Lexington, I mean, describe where Lexington is for people that are listening.
Lexington is located between Austin and Bryan College Station. We catch traffic from both ways. The barbecue place is not on the main highway. You have to turn off approximately 5 blocks. And it's an old peanut mill where they used to dry peanuts and store peanuts. So it's not a real fancy looking place. I think you'd call it a barn red color. And during the time of COVID, and we were shut down for 8 months during COVID, Kerry went in and built the merch building, which consists of T-shirts, koozies, glasses, Yeti glasses, caps, different things for sale that we did have in the building, which it had gotten quite crowded. So in a way, it was a blessing that COVID broke out, that we were closed down. That way he could build and it wasn't the people in the way, or that he had to block off an area with the building. It was no one there, so he could continue building. From the very beginning, if we had any meat left, this is before we were recognized, he would freeze it and vacuum seal it. And if anyone called during the week that wanted a brisket, he would sell it to them then. So he really got into the shipping business and has gotten some big vacuum seal machines that we vacuum seal and freeze brisket, sausage, ribs. And online then people can order it. He has different types of packaging that you order by.
You have one of your big deals at Snow's is your online mail mail order, barbecue, which is really cool. People from all over the world that can't make the trip to Lexington.
And at the same time, during COVID, he bought a big walk-in freezer and a walk-in cooler in order that the meats that we have extra, and they cook brisket during the week, several days, which it goes into the cooler and chilled down, then vacuum sealed and then frozen in a period of 2 to 3 days from the time it comes off the pit until it's in the box shipped out.
Right.
And it's United States wide.
Yes. Now, when I was there 2 Saturdays ago with you guys in the morning, spending the time with you, I was amazed. First of all, I got there at 6:30 in the morning, and I thought in my head they open at 8, 6:30. I'll beat the crowd. That's what I thought, and I was wrong. I showed up at 6:30. You already had a crowd wrapped around the building, and these people were from all over the world, all over the country. They come, it's like a pilgrimage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they make the pilgrimage to Lexington, which is not anywhere on the way to anything for most people.
Mm-mm.
It's for people that live in the city or live in other parts of the world, they would say we're in the middle of nowhere.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
But here you guys are getting there at 2:00 in the morning to make barbecue. And I was just blown away at the amount of people that were there, which you said it was a slow morning. And they're just excited to be there.
They're very excited.
They're so happy to be there. They're and not many things get people excited at in the middle of the night to get up and drive to some random place and sit there in the cold or in the heat, waiting for a meal. And I just am curious, what is it about barbecue that you think brings these people together? Because it's not just the meal, the meat. What is it exactly that you think gravitates
I think
people?
a lot of it is the friendship and fellowship we have with people. I don't like to brag on myself. That's something I don't like, but I do have to say, I would say 90% of the people come and want to take a picture with me, to meet me, to shake my hand, to see me in person. When I was recognized, and then it goes back to 1966 when I went to work at Giddings Market. A lady doing barbecue, which in 90 to 95% of the places is a man's job. And
probably even still.
It probably still is. And I think that's one thing that so many of them come. And it seems to me, I began hearing of more and more barbecue places opening up after 2008 that they were trying, and more ladies getting into it. And I just think to myself sometime, well, if that old woman can do it, we can do it too. And that's what I think has caused a lot of women to get into it.
What would you say to those women that own a barbecue restaurant or have a dream of owning a barbecue restaurant, where they look at the industry and they say, there's no way I could do this? What would you say to them? Because they call you the queen of barbecue. So what would you tell them?
Well, it's kind of like this, and I think if I'd have been President Truman that said it, maybe not either. If you can't stand the heat, don't go into barbecue. If you can't stand smoke, don't go into barbecue. Because there's no way you can have both of those and turn out a good, or not have both of those and still turn out a good barbecue. You've got to have heat, which is going to be smoke. It's not an easy job. No, it's not a clean job. It's not a comfortable job because you're over that heat. It's hot. Yeah, in the wintertime, it's better. But then you're cold the rest of your body just because your head is over the heat. So it's a job you really think about before you get into it, as to not necessarily the outcome, but the preparation. As I say, your heat, your smoke, your sweat. It all takes a toll. And like brisket, you can't rush it. You're either going to have to start the night before in order to have it ready early, or you're going to have to start during the day and then it'll be ready at night. I mean, it's a lot of things to think about and to take into consideration. As I told Kerry when he said we open up at 8:00, and I said, Kerry, I can't have it ready then from 2 till 8. That ain't but 6 hours. Brisket need at least 8, 10, 12 hours. And so it's a long period of time of cooking before you begin seeing your results.
Tell us, walk through, let's just take a brisket. So we have a single brisket that you're going to serve at Snow's. As much as you can share or would want to share, what happens to that brisket that you get that's a raw piece of meat? How does it end up on the platter in front of somebody before they eat it?
Okay, say for instance, we're seasoning it. We season them usually a day ahead of time in order that the season can soak in. You have to have your pit hot when you put it on. You have to keep a level heat for approximately 7, 8 hours. Then we take them off and wrap them in foil, put them back on the pit, and cook another 4 or 5 hours. Take it off, set them on a table in order that they can rest, then go to the cutting block.
That easy. Simple, but not easy.
It's simple, but not easy.
That's right.
It's time consuming, but not only the time consuming, but you've got to watch your heat.
What's the biggest mistake that people in barbecue make? You know, for the backyard barbecuers, which are most people love to barbecue. What's something that guy that just is barbecuing on Sunday with his family, what can they do?
Starting it out too hot or cooking it too hot.
Low and slow, that's what they say, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, putting it on at 350, 375, that's too hot. And brisket is the toughest cut of meat on the animal. For years, we ground the brisket up into sausage because it's tough. Well, we were maybe cooking it too fast. We didn't realize to slow down on it. And while we had the market is when brisket began being popular.
Mm-hmm.
Probably in the 80s.
When did it jump? Because you're one of the few people that I think has seen the barbecue world go from barbecue something you do on a Saturday with your family or your church fundraiser, and it just is a fun event. Nobody's comparing barbecue. It just is, you just cook barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
You go from that to today in 2024, where there's barbecue fusion, mixing these kinds of ingredients, and you've got really hip places opening up. It's all about barbecue. How did we go from that early days, from the backyard barbecue, to this giant industry of Texas barbecue?
That's kind of hard. I mean, I would think of it as self-competition, that somebody new hears about barbecue and, oh, well, they're making gobs of money out of that barbecue, and they've got a long line of people coming in to buy barbecue. But at the same time, everybody's going for it. They think that's the going deal right now. And it kind of jumps the gun. You know, they try to make it big, or making it big.
Because used to, every town, correct me if I'm wrong, but every rural community had a meat market.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had your local city meat market, and you would go and maybe they'd have barbecues on Saturday, but you went in to go buy your meat. And now these barbecue restaurants that's all they do. They
All up and
barbecue
down the highway.
9 to 5,
Mm.
365 days a year. They're making barbecue. So I think maybe it sounds like just the people have an appetite for it. And
there again, I come back to say, if that old woman can do it, we can do it. And I mean, let's see, in 2008, I'd have been 70s. So that's the reason I said, you know, if that old lady can do it, we can do it.
Can you believe the success that you guys have had?
It's hard to realize. It's hard to realize. From that and being inducted into the Barbecue Hall of Fame in Kansas City, Texas Monthly naming Snow's the top 10 over a period of 20 years. I do say this, it's not all me. As I go back to losing my son and my husband, those doors closed, but God opened up other doors for me, leading me to go down the path of barbecue, where I have achieved being inducted into the Hall of Fame, or being nominated several times for the James Beard Award. And I'm just following the path that God has given me, with my self-pride I hold within, but just to show love for the other people, and to produce a good food. So often people have made the remark, oh, I like a dark, hard bark on my brisket. For us, we want a golden brown and a tender bark. If you want it so hard and so dark, pick up a piece of wood and chew on it. You've lost your flavor, you've lost your color. So, you know, take pride in your product, but it looks nice. Of course, if you like it dark, okay, that's your choice. But as I said, we just like a lighter color, soft, tender bark.
What do you think the future of barbecue holds here in Texas?
I think it's going to keep going. A lot will depend on our meat prices. Of course, we can always go up on it, the price of the finished product, but a lot's going to depend on the meat prices. As I was saying a while ago about the cattle, the way they sold years ago, $100 for a calf compared to $13, $14 now. And there's only 2 briskets per animal. So, I mean, has become an expensive cut of meat through the barbecue business. And it just depends on how the meat situation fluctuates. You know, if it gets too hot at the raw stage, I'd have to drop out.
Do you think these restaurants are going to continue to to be built, and people will continue to come and see these barbecue places across the globe?
For a while, I think we'll continue to have new barbecue places to open up. The old businesses, if they've got enough employees or the right employees to continue on as the older ones drop out, that the younger ones have picked it up and are carrying it on, I think barbecue business will continue. But you need a lot of teamwork. That's what it comes back to. You need teamwork
You guys
to
have
carry
that.
on.
You guys have that in spades there.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all are family, I can tell.
Well, but I mean any barbecue place. Wayne Miller's in Taylor or Black's in Lockhart. They have to have somebody there that is really interested in it, wanting to carry it on, to make it a success, to carry on with barbecue. If they don't get in there with the teamwork and get to lagging, I mean, your quality will drop off. Therefore, your business will drop off.
What's one of the best barbecue meals you've had?
Oh, that's hard to say.
Or do you have some other restaurants that if you ever travel, you mentioned Black's or
Well,
Taylor.
I mean, those are just some of the popular ones that are older companies that I'm thinking about.
Right. Do you have any that you enjoy if you ever travel to go stop in and eat at?
Yeah, yes, there's a few but I don't travel that much.
You don't need to. Everything's right here. Yeah.
I work 6 days a week, so I haven't got much time for traveling.
That's right. Because you still work
I'm still working with the Giddings Public School in the grounds department.
So you're there during the week and barbecuing on the weekends.
On Saturdays.
That's right.
I would say this. We were speaking a while ago about the crowds, and it's nothing new for a car to come in on Friday afternoon, 3, 4 o'clock, put their chair down on the porch, and some of them sleep there in the chairs. Others will go to their cars and sleep. They'll bring their blankets along in the wintertime and cuddle up. So it's not that people just get there during the night. A lot of them come in on Fridays.
It's amazing.
So they can be there.
It's amazing. All for some
and it's
brisket,
very
and it's worth it.
Talking to them to see where they're from.
Tell us about an experience you've had with somebody maybe from outside of around here.
We are invited quite often to College Station to the barbecue camp they have over there. And I met a couple from England. And we got addresses or exchanged or so forth. And anyway, he opened up a barbecue place in London, England. And he had tasted the pork in Texas and enjoyed it. So when he got back to England, he began buying pork that he could sell as barbecue. And he calls it Tootsie Special. Just because he tasted pork at the barbecue places here in Texas.
All over the world.
Around the world,
That's amazing.
And,
I understand that you love a good Hallmark movie.
Love. What?
Hallmark movies?
Yes.
What's one of your favorites?
I guess Golden Pile.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're not eating brisket or barbecue, what other foods do you like to eat?
I like chicken, fried chicken, baked chicken, boiled chicken, barbecued chicken.
That's good.
I like pork. I really enjoy our pork barbecue, not because I cook it, but I just like pork.
That was the best pork that I had ever.
And a lot of people from the North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky area are so amazed when they see our pork because we slice it as you buy it if you want it sliced to eat there. Well, I mean, we'll slice it for you. And they just can't imagine that pork could look like that because they're used to having it pulled apart. And that's just Central Texas.
That's right. As we kind of land this plane here, what's a message that you would send to those that love barbecue, that love the outdoors, that love the land, and that want to see it continue? What would that message be that you would send to them?
Well, to say as far as Snow's set up, I would like for you to come and see our setup. Our tables or dining area is just right out with the pits. While you're eating, you can see us cooking. And at the same time, waiting in line to get your food, you may stand in line 3 or 4 hours, but don't let that frighten you off, because while you're in that line, you are meeting people from Michigan, Washington, Africa, Venezuela, from around the world that you can visit with, and it helps pass the time. And at the same time, the way we're set up, it's a friendly atmosphere. You can get you something to drink. We have drinks there, or buy something from the stores. And we just have a beautiful setup that I hope is inviting. I mean, I feel like it's very inviting.
I think it is, no question about it. It feels like you're part of the team when you show up and hang out there.
We have some of our locals, or in fact our locals, instead of having to stand in line, we have the call-in orders. And a lot of people that are traveling from Dallas to Corpus Christi will call in to place their order and then come and pick it up back at the pit. It's wrapped and ready to go, and they can pick it up, leave, and drive on down to Corpus, or whichever way they're going, or wherever they're going. So we try to be not sociable, but helpful in any kind of way we can.
Yes, ma'am. Well, Miss Tootsie, I want to thank you for being here, sitting down, spending some time with us. And I want to acknowledge you for all of your efforts and your work with Texas barbecue, Texas food, and just Texas in general, for giving us a good name to look at, for people to look at when they think about Texas and Texas barbecue, and just for your presence. You're so sweet, and I'm just so grateful to know you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me and doing this with me. I have appreciated it. I have enjoyed it. And hope to see you around some more.
We'll come get some barbecue.